What is up guys, Julien Miquel here of Social Vignerons. Welcome back to another wine video. Oops, did I say wine video? No, today I'm going to be doing something completely different from what I usually do. I normally review and taste and share the passion that I've got for wine. As a trained winemaker from France, I spent 10 years making wine, making fine wine all around the world. But no, today you've seen this right, I am going to be tasting and revealing and revealing some of the secrets behind the flavors, the aromas of Jack Daniel's Old No.7 Black Label Tennessee whiskey, the most popular, the most sold of all American whiskeys out there. So why making a video about Jack Daniel's? Well, I do like my spirits and I like to analyze and sip a spirit here and there. I did study spirit making quite a fair bit while I was in Bordeaux, which is near Cognac, so we studied the secrets of spirit making, so I understand what's behind different spirits. This is going to be a good opportunity not only to say once and for all what such a whiskey, what Jack Daniel's actually tastes like, but also I'm going to be discussing a few of my thoughts on why I think this is such a fantastic, enormous success as a commercial brand internationally and worldwide. But let's dig first into the flavors and the aromas of Jack Daniel's to start with. So first of all, well, there's quite a bit of color into this whiskey. In terms of what it smells like, the aromatic profile, as we say, to be a little bit fancy, you do actually have to swirl it and shake it quite a bit to get all the goodness out of the glass. There is a lot of honey sweetness, caramelly, blonde caramel sweetness coming through. I think this is a lot to do with the base ingredient, which is corn, captivating, enchanting blonde caramel sweetness, which is certainly the dominant note here. But on the background of the aromatic profile, there's a bit of vanilla, there's a bit of the caramel, as I said, but there's a bit of coconut as well, and quite a lot of spices as well. You can smell a bit of nutmeg and a bit of clove as well, a bit of a Christmas pudding type of smell. Let's dig into what it actually tastes like. So this is a relatively thin whiskey on the palate. It's not an immense body. This is smooth and soft, quite thin but super smooth and soft, not so much oily texture. There's quite a lot of tannins and phenolics coming through on the back of the palate, so some tannins drying the edges and the side of your palate, but with smooth, delicate phenolics there. In terms of the flavors, there's a big burst and big explosion of this honey and blonde caramel on the palate. There's a bit of orange peel, confit type of things in there. There's quite a lot of spices as well, so a bit like this Christmas pudding that are stuffed with loads of dried fruit, the dried confit, citrus, and a bit of lemon, and loads of spices, nutmeg, the clove, the cinnamon. Big burst and big explosion of things here. Burst of spiciness with quite a lot of fruity, maybe a little bit of a floral character to it. Alcohol and ethanol is actually quite floral. If you taste the vodka, very pure vodka, you will find aromas of elderflower and really rose petal, these sort of aromas, which comes from straight alcohol. Ethanol smells a bit like rose petal in itself, and definitely quite a lot coming through here. Some thoughts about the commercial success of Jack Daniel's. 150 million bottles of Jack Daniel's that I think are sold annually all around the globe. So if you make the calculation, that's one person out of 50 on this planet drinking a whole bottle of this every year, which is an absolutely a huge number. Loads of marketing magic behind this product. The packaging, square bottle, makes it look really distinctive, really out of the ordinary. The black label, and I believe they turned the label black when Jack Daniel's, the founder of the distillery, died, and they've kept it after that, and probably because I think they realized that this distinctive black look appeals to a wide range of drinkers. It looks quite premium, but it's also relatively appealing even to younger drinkers, younger generation, and it's so distinctive. The Old No.7, there's different explanations and no one really knows why they call it all No.7. There is this video online of a guy, a reviewer at whisky.com, who explains that he believes that they just put a number on it because they realized and they know that if you put a number on a bottle of whiskey, you're actually going to sell it better. So those are my thoughts around, you know, the packaging, the distinctive packaging. Now, one of the reasons they can afford this sort of packaging, relatively, you know, out of the ordinary packaging, is, and that's also a big part of the commercial success of this, is that the base ingredient, which is mainly corn and with a bit of malted barley, but a lot of corn, is really cheap, which leaves more room to, you know, invest on a packaging that is going to look, you know, a bit more premium, that, you know, just distilled corn to start with. This, I believe, spends about 4 to 7 years in oak barrels, so you have to store a lot of stock for quite a long time. But once you've invested in the stock, you know, in the warehouses, and you've stocked all of this, then you don't have to pay for it. And this brand, I think, started 150 or 180 years ago, so I think the initial stock was paid for a long time ago. So the base product is cheap, and the aging is a little bit expensive, but American oak is much cheaper than French oak, for example, and they can make large amounts of American oak barrels for a reasonable amount of money. The most important secret, I think, behind the success of Jack Daniel's is how mellow it feels. A big part of it is the charcoal filtration. So the distinction between a Tennessee whiskey as opposed to a Kentucky bourbon, for example, and all other American whiskeys, is that this spirit that is distilled from corn, which is going to be a white, clear spirit, goes through charcoal. So I think it goes through about 10 feet of charcoal. It's slowly for about, it takes about 4 to 5 days to go and go through the charcoal in large, you know, vats. Charcoal filtration, as you probably know, removes pretty much any impurity, anything out of any liquid. You know, we use charcoal filtration for water and other purposes. If you want to remove bad stuff out of liquid, well, charcoal is ideal, and that's exactly why they do it here, because it's going to remove anything aggressive, anything unwanted in the spirit, and you end up with a spirit that is really pure. Now, you have to realize as well that this recipe was invented in the 19th century, and back then a spirit being pure and being out of any faults was an absolute necessity for commercial success, and it was something that was quite rare at the time. A lot of, you know, the homemade and a lot of the whiskey brands and other spirit brands would have something a little bit, perhaps a little bit funky about them, because it was hard to control the fermentation really well and control all the process to have a very clean and pure whiskey. They initially found a process that allowed them to make a clean, mellow whiskey all the time, and that helped spreading the word about how reliable, how good and smooth a whiskey can be. And here it is, the secrets of the commercial success is that this is a relatively cheap or relatively affordable product to make, but because it's so smooth and you put a lot of oaky, pleasing oaky influence, you can actually sell it for a relatively high price compared to what it actually is, and how cheap it's actually to make. And you can turn this into marketing power, into having a very nice packaging, and into promoting your product all around the world. So here it is. These were my thoughts about what Jack Daniel's tastes like and why it's so popular, why everyone loves it. It's just a good whiskey. It's just well made, and it's pleasing and enjoyable, especially mixed with other sodas and other drinks. I hope you enjoyed this video, and I will see you soon in the wonderful world of wine and sometimes whiskey. Especially in the 19th century, filtering through charcoal allowed you to have a very clean all the time spirit, and a mellow one at that. If you look at how Bacardi rum is made as well, they do use charcoal filtration, and I believe that this is with coconut charcoal, you know, coconut skin charcoal, some kind of thing. And the Bacardi has also been a commercial success for hundreds of years, because they initially found a process that allowed them to make a clean, mellow whiskey all the time, and that helped spread spreading the word about how reliable, how good and smooth a whiskey can be. Obviously, if you remove pretty much everything out of the alcohol, what you end up with is something that has no impurity, nothing aggressive in it that is going to bother your taste buds while you taste.